Algebras. Welcome to your Chapter 14 Lesson 2 notes. We are going to start creating scatter plots. So a scatter plot is a graph that compares two different variables as an x and a y on an xy axis. It is in a first quadrant scenario because our data is positive. Okay, so our data is positive. So we'll have those in an XY scenario. But what we kind of typically go with is the X variable is going to represent the independent data, while the Y axis and the Y variable represents the dependent data, whatever that is. So if you are looking at time and something else, well, the time is the independent variable. And that's how you know that that's going to be on your X side of your axis. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to label and scale our axes and then plot each data point as an XY coordinate. So it's kind of neat. We're going to look at all of these data values as XY coordinates. We do not connect these points. These are each an individual point representing the data together. Okay, the two separate data values together as their two pieces in a point. Okay, we don't represent them as a connection. So don't go around connecting all those points. That's not what this is. This is not like one of those dot thing pictures, not like that. Scatter plots are separate from that. Okay. So the example we'll do today together is hours studied versus Regents exam score. The hours studied, of course, being our time, is going to be our X variable. And the Regents score, being your result, is your Y variable. So that stands to reason that how much you study depends on, is what determines your score. Okay? So what we'll do here is we'll look at these as coordinate points. So this coordinate point will be 380. This coordinate point will be 590. 275, right? 680, 790, 150, 265, 785, 140, and 100. So those will be our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points that we plot on this graph, right? So let's just take kind of a peek at each of the different variables here, okay, and put them and figure out how to scale our number lines. So of course we've got our X number line down here, and that's going to be hours studied, right? So it looks like our maximum number of hours studied is 7. So we've got plenty of space down here to fit 7. So let's just go by 2s, right? So every second one, I will put go by 1/2, I should have said, my bad. Go by 1/2. Every second line is where I'm going to put a mark and scale. And let's label down here study hours. Okay, so we know that that's our variable here, is how many hours studied. And then, of course, on the Y side, it starts with 0 down here. And we have a minimum score of 40, a maximum score of 100. And I can tell you from having counted this back in chapter 2, this exact same XY axis, that there are 30 going up. And you can kind of see it because the 5s are all a little bit darker, right? So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So since that's the case, I want 100, my max, divided by 30. And what that comes up with is, so you can see it a little better, 3.3 repeating, of course. So why don't we maybe go by 4s or 5s? Why don't we go by 5s, right? Why don't we go by 5s going up, okay? And if we're going by 5s heading up, that should fit everything just fine. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. So I didn't stretch this out further because my data actually kind of already goes by fives, right? There was nothing other that didn't end in a 0 or a 5. So I kind of stuck to something easier that I could use to fit that. Okay, so let me just fill in. So I'm just filling in all those that I counted, and I had only written down my quarters. There we go. And now I'm just going to turn my paper and label this as Regents score. Okay. And that's what we got. Now let's plot our points. So we've got 380. There we go. 590. There we go. 275. Okay. It's looking kind of in line so far, right? 680. Oh, okay. A little off. 790. 150. 265. 785. 140. And last but certainly not least, 100. That coveted 100 on a Regents exam. Look at that. This is what a scatter plot looks like, guys. This is what a scatter plot looks like. This is all we want, is we want the data plotted over these two variables. And then how we label a scatter plot as a title is to write exactly what the two variables are that we're looking at. Okay, so hours studied versus Regents exam score. And that's how we know what our scatter plot is showing us. All right, that's how we're kind of starting here. Let's do one more together. Study time versus GPA. Okay. So what parts we'll do together here is we'll decide who's X and who's Y. Pretty similar to the last one, so I'll be kind of easy. We'll decide our scale together. Okay. A little bit different this time, scale-wise, I think. And then I'll have you plot your points and we'll come back and make sure that our plots are the same. So let's do that. So which one of these is our independent variable? It'll happen no matter what. That would be our study time. That means that GPA is our dependent variable. Depends on how much time we study, right? So that's the first thing we know. Next thing we know is our maximum study time is 20. And I know that across the bottom, I have 20 hash marks. So it stands to reason that we will go by ones here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And I'm just going to go back and fill in as well. I just wanted to get the outline going first. I like to do the outline first So if I've made a mistake in my counting or my outline, I don't have to do the entire scale over again. So I like to kind of do a quick outline. And of course, this is study time in hours per week. And that was labeled up on the table. So that's my first labeling. My second labeling is going to be GPA, as we determined, is on the Y, right? And what's my maximum GPA here? 96. I know I have 30 going all the way up. So again, with my scaling, let's take 96 and divide it by 30, and let's see what we got. So 3.2, which means we cannot go by threes. That's not going to be enough to fit everyone. So we do have to go by fours. And this time it kind of makes a little bit of sense to really spread it out and go by the fours. Makes a little bit more sense to do that this time because we don't have everything ending in 0 and 5. So I'm going to spread this out a little bit more. So starting with 0, of course, on the bottom, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. And let's see, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40, 44, 48, 52, 56, 60, 64, 68, 72, 76, and 80. So we can see how this is looking a little bit more spread out already. 84, 88, 92, 96, which we know is our max, and 100. Okay, and so now what I'm doing is I'm just heading back down, filling in what I was making sure fit properly, right? So I'm just filling back in everything that I knew I needed to fit properly. And please just feel free to copy me if you're not great at counting fours backwards. It's all right. If you don't do it every day, you lose it, right? And back down to 0. And then, of course, this side is our GPA, which stands for grade point average. There we go. Okay. Now let's plot our points. So this is where I will pause and allow for you some time to plot your points, and then we'll come back and make sure we have the same points plotted. All right, see you in a sec. And there we have it. So let's just double check, right? As I was going, I checked off my points. We had already had some of the things labeled properly. We scaled together and labeled the axes together, but we did need to title our graph. So this is our scatter plot of study time versus GPA. Got our points on here, looking pretty good. This one's a little bit easier because the data was already kind of organized to go in order on the x-axis, right? And it kind of went that way on the y-axis. It's looking very linear, isn't it? That's my lead-in for the next video. So we will come back and talk about linear regressions after you've practiced just generally making a scatter plot. Okay? So please practice on tonight's homework. Make that scatter plot. Get those labels. Scale the way I did. Look for the max and divide by how many point plots you got. Okay? And I look forward to doing this with you. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.